On Tuesday, a judge in Florida temporarily blocked a Florida law that barred a transgender teacher from using the pronouns that she prefers that don't align with her birth sex. And so this temporarily blocks Florida from enforcing the law against Katie Wood, a transgender 10th grade algebra teacher, as the judge says it violates her First Amendment rights. Wood, for the longest time, went by Miss Wood in school, but under the Florida law, championed by Ron DeSantis, she would have to go by Teacher Wood. The ruling only applies to Wood, unfortunately, as of right now. Obviously, this is going to be appealed. We'll see what ends up happening. Bear in mind that Ron DeSantis has had about as big an impact on the Florida Supreme Court as Trump has on the national Supreme Court. So cross your fingers on that. But forcing her to go as Teacher Wood, these are their priorities. These are who they are. Thankfully, in this case, they failed, but never forget that these are who they are. Anyway, Wood and two other transgender educators sued the state back in 2023, saying that the law violated their constitutionally protected right to free speech, as well as equal protection under the law, and just the prohibitions against discrimination based on sex, all of which were being violated in this case. But I want to turn now to what the judge actually said, because I don't just agree with the judge. I love the ridiculously over-the-top way that the judge talked about this topic. So this is Judge Mark Walker, and in some of the articles about this, he apparently has a bit of a reputation for being verbose and a little bit, I don't know, like metaphoric in his speech. And let's go to some of the actual 60-page report and see if we agree. The state of Florida has a First Amendment problem. Of late, it has happened so frequently, some might say you can set your clock by it. The question before this court is whether the First Amendment permits the state to dictate without limitation how public school teachers refer to themselves when communicating to students. The answer is a thunderous no, and I love that. So then he goes on and he quotes a Walt Whitman poem that I totally know, in saying, in sharing her preferred title and pronouns, Miss Wood celebrates herself and sings herself, not in a disruptive or coercive way, but in a way that subtly vindicates her identity, her dignity, and her humanity. Florida law, he added, has silenced her and by silencing her, forced her to inhabit an identity that is not her own. And I love that. It's not just over the top, it is, that's very funny, but like it's nuanced and it shows empathy and understanding. We don't often see this these days. But I'm gonna get to the conclusion here. The state of Florida has not justified this grave restraint, and so the United States Constitution does not tolerate it. Ours is a union of individuals celebrating ourselves and singing ourselves and being ourselves without apology. Now that's a poem worthy of Walt Whitman. But anyway, I like the ruling. I like that there are still judges, let alone judges in Florida, that care at all about these arguments that are being made. And I don't just mean that like they're willing to come down on the side of a trans person or an educator or a trans educator, which is like public enemy number one in Florida these days, but that actually cares about freedom of speech. A freedom that is often talked about by right-wingers, including right-wingers in Florida, but that they have clearly turned 100% against over the past few years. They're going around the state finding lists of books to ban and all of that, and demonizing educators. To have a judicial opinion actually come down 100% on the side of reason and tolerance and compassion, understanding is rare and deserves to be acknowledged. That does not mean that you should simply cheer it and then move on, because as I said, this will be appealed. But for now, it's something. It's something that, by the way, also needs to be expanded, because as of right now, it is restricted to one educator. And there are a lot of people, I'm sure, who would like the same sort of consideration by the state and the judicial system. Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.